Hey students, it's Mrs. Loy here to walk you through the revision process for your tone statements on Swimming for Her Life, which is the article that you read not this past week, but the week before about the Syrian refugees who were leaving their country by swimming to get out of there. So I want to take a look at what was expected of you guys in checkpoint A, and then talk about how we can make those revisions and make it better, improve your writing, get a better score, and then submit a better checkpoint B. So let's take a look at the writing workshop for this week. So as you know, the writing workshop always shows up on the Sunday agenda and it's listed as a page. So when you open up this page, it's going to bring you to this checkpoint B writing workshop for Monday, May 11th and May 12th. So we're still looking at the essential question, what challenges do we face in our lives? And our learning targets for this particular workshop are going to be identifying tone within a nonfiction text, identifying a piece of textual evidence that supports the tone, and then making sure that we are creating in-text citations. In step 1, you're going to be watching this mini lesson on how to revise your tone statement. This video is actually going to show up right here. It's not there yet because I'm currently recording it, but it's going to show up right here. I've also included a video from Flowcabulary where you can review mood and tone if you're still just struggling with what's the difference between mood and tone. Because for your summative assessment on Unit 4, you're going to want to understand the difference between those. When you get into your work time today, I'm going to encourage you to start by looking over the individual feedback that you received from checkpoint A. So those are going to be featured in the comment section of your actual assignment. So your first assignment, you were given a score of 0 out of 4, and then those were translated into the 0 out of 10 scores that are showing up in PowerSchool right now. So start by looking over your individual feedback and see where you need to make some revisions. Then check over the notes from this mini lesson. I'm going to walk you through a model example here in just a second to help you guys and kind of guide you in the direction that I'd like for you to go. Then you're going to create your own revisions, and then you're going to submit to checkpoint B, which is featured all the way down here at the bottom of the mini lesson. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example, and I'll kind of talk you through my mental process before we dive into you doing your own work. So here in my example assignment, what I did was I went ahead and brought over the checkpoint A instruction. So what I asked you to do in checkpoint A was to consider the section dangerous journey, and then to complete the sentence starter with 2 words that describe Lewis's tone as she describes Yusra and Sarah on their journey from Syria to Germany. In checkpoint B, I'm allowing you guys to kind of branch out because I noticed a lot of you had very similar ideas, which is great because that means that you're all picking up on tone. But I also wanted you guys to have some choice with this assignment if Dangerous Journey wasn't the section that really spoke to you. So for my example, I'm actually going to focus on a different section as well. So the sentence starters I provided you in checkpoint A started with, in the section Dangerous Journey, Lewis's tone is. And you want to make sure that you're providing 2 different answers here. And a lot of you in your original checkpoint A's were including nouns there. And so we really want to think about using adjectives here, so describing words, because we are describing what we feel the author's perspective or attitude is towards that particular topic. So you really want to think about using adjectives instead of nouns in your first initial statement. And then we want to go on to find textual evidence. So we want to really dig into the text. What you should have learned when you did your initial learning or your initial teaching on mood and tone was that tone really is exemplified through word choice. It can be exemplified through sentence structure. We can draw those, we have to infer those conclusions or draw those conclusions based on what the author is writing. So in your example, the statement that supports your claim, it needs to be really clear and it needs to have key words that really hone in on the tone that you've provided in the first sentence. So I'm going to point that out today as I work through my example. And then lastly, we're going to work on improving our in-text citations. It's really been a big focus in Unit 4. So when you're creating that in-text citation, we want to include Kristen Lewis's last name and then the page number that you found it. And again, I want to stress that you guys need to be going into the presentation view of Scope in order to find the correct page numbers. So let's take a look at my example. I said in the section, maybe I'm going to die. So we're going to take a look at that section today. Lewis's tone about refugees is sympathetic and compassionate. So you notice that I have those adjectives listed there. So sympathetic and compassionate. So feeling bad for somebody, but also caring for them. So I'm going to pop over to the Scope version of the text And I'm going to move myself over here out of the way. And I've gone ahead and zoomed in a little bit on the maybe I'm going to die section. Now, I already have a piece of evidence that I think that I want to use, but I'm going to go ahead and reread this section to make sure that my example really points out the sympathetic and compassionate words that I laid out in my initial statement. The decision to leave one's home is never an easy one, but for many Syrians, there wasn't really a choice. Staying meant risking death. To date, nearly 11 million Syrians have fled the violence. Some have found refuge in other parts of Syria. Many have escaped to neighboring countries, including Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan. Others have gone to Europe. The life of a refugee can be difficult. They may have to deal with language barriers and the challenges of finding work and housing in a new country. They may face discrimination from locals who see them as a drain on resources and on the government's money, and all the while they must cope with the magnitude of what they have lost. Yet Yusra and Sarah knew they had to leave Syria if they were going to have any future at all. Their plan was to go to Germany, one of the few countries that have opened their doors to Syrian refugees. The sisters knew the journey would be extremely dangerous, but that did not deter them. Maybe I'm going to die on the way, Yusra said, but I'm almost dead in my own country. I can't do anything. So as I think about what I just read, I really want to focus on trying to draw out where I believe that the author kind of feels sorry for the girls, like that they're really having to go through something that's challenging, but also has kind of a soft spot for them. And so as I was rereading, I really kind of focused in on this section here where it says they may face discrimination from locals who see them as a drain on resources and the government's money. So that kind of shows that sympathy side of things. Like, she doesn't know what that feels like, but she does feel sorry that people would think that they're a drain on the government's resources. And so I'm going to use that sentence as well as, and all the while they must cope with the magnitude of what they've lost. So there's that compassion, that heart, that, you know, trying to find some sort of way to empathize with these girls. And so I'm actually going to pull both of those sentences from this text in order to use them to support my tone. Since my tone has two similar but sort of different ideas, I want to make sure that I'm capturing both of those in the evidence that I provide. So let's go back to my tone statement. And I'm going to go ahead and insert my example here at the bottom. Okay, so I've gone ahead and plugged in my evidence down here at the bottom. So my second sentence says, one statement that supports this claim is they, Syrians. Notice that in brackets, I'm actually defining what the pronoun is. So a lot of you used a lot of pronouns in your evidence, and that's totally fine because that's how it shows up in the text. But we need to make sure that we're defining who those pronouns are because it makes it really hard as a reader to understand who you're talking about. So they, the Syrians, may face discrimination from locals who see them as a drain on resources and on the government's money, and all the while they must cope with the magnitude of what they've lost. So notice that I also haven't inserted my end of sentence punctuation because I still have to work in my in-text citation. So I know that my author's name is Lewis, and then I'm going to pop over to presentation mode one more time within our text, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. Oh, and it looks like that is on page 11. So we'll go back to my example here. Now there's no comma, there's no PG, there's just going to be the number 11, the ending punctuation, or not the ending punctuation, but the ending mark for my citation, and then that's where I'm going to go ahead and plug in my period. So what I would do next is I would copy this first sentence here, and I would copy this sentence here, and then I would insert both of those into the new checkpoint B that is available in the writing workshop. I hope that you guys found this helpful. I can't wait to read your revisions, and I'm really glad that you're enjoying this text. So have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to almost being done with another school year with you guys. So I'm so excited, and I'm so proud of you. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you hopefully very soon.